I need a whole, like, where's my gift for making it through long distance with you? This house? What's up, Flourishing fam? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Flourish with Delores, where flourishing means progress and not perfection, honey. So let's get right into today's video. We are talking long distance relationships.
Long distance.
We did a video on that, so if you haven't seen that yet, stop this, pause this, and then go and check that out. But from that video, we talked about the different ways that we navigated actually getting to each other, and a couple people asked us to talk a little bit more about that. I'm gonna let my husband Charles take the lead on this because he's captain of Team Long Distance that I no longer ever want to be on again.
Hey, I'm always willing to come out of retirement and coach the team again.
No.
So let's talk about how we actually did the traveling, right? So I guess this
first the bus.
Yeah, so I guess let's start off with, so I was in Baltimore for my first year of medical school, and Delores initially was at Seton Hall.
In Jersey. New Jersey, yep.
Yes, so the first couple times of that whole year was mainly by the bus. Now, there's a couple different companies that I like. Yes.
I just want to talk about my bus struggle real quick. So getting to Maryland from Jersey, at the time I was taking 2 buses.
No, you weren't. Not from Jersey. That was from Connecticut.
No, remember I'd have to take a bus to New York City.
No, from New Jersey?
Oh, because we're going south. Okay, I'll get to that when I get to that.
See,
I'm scarred.
She already just trying to cause a problem, right? No. So from New Jersey to Baltimore, there were, I'll say at least 2, but probably 3 options. So the main companies that are like on the East Coast are Greyhound, Bolt Bus, and Peter Pan Bus. And they usually, for the most part, they all kind of go along the East Coast from like Boston all the way down to like Maryland, right? There's also other buses that you can take at Chinatown in New York City, but I like these buses just because they're kind of
they offered a lot of discounts.
Yeah, they offered discounts, and like they were also like, there was like a general place where you could like catch it that was like, you know, pretty easy, and especially like if you're coming back like late at night and stuff, it was like well lit and all that. So that's why I like those. Bolt Bus, which is kind of what I started taking a little more first, they're relatively cheap, and one thing they do advertise is that, well, a couple of things. Number one is their Bolt Bus for $1.
Charles would stalk the website to get us a ticket, to get me, because really I was the one that would go down more.
Right.
So to get me a ticket, he would stalk this website. So he'll tell you a little bit about it.
Right. So yes. So basically, every now and again, they would release a couple tickets that were worth $1, and you had to like kind of jump on it real quickly because otherwise it would like disappear. And I remember even one time, I think I took the ticket. I don't think I didn't even plan to like visit you. I think it was like something a week. Maybe I had like a couple days off or something like that, and I just wanted the $1 ticket, so I just took it anyway. But yes, but sometimes you will get lucky with that. So that does
was
save
it
a lot
a
of money.
rewards program? Like the more you get?
No,
that was different.
It had nothing to do
just
with
random sales.
Yeah, just random. Every I think if you look online, it'll tell you how often they release it or when they usually release it. But every now and again, you'd have to check, and they would have a ticket for $1. They also have a rewards program as well that like if you take I think a certain amount of trips that you would get a trip for free. So I definitely recommend if you are traveling by bus. And all these companies, Peter Pan, Greyhound, they usually all offer some type of reward system. So sign up and make sure every time you buy a ticket that you're logged into your account. And after a certain amount of trips, you usually get a trip free. So if you're on a budget, it helps. Yeah.
Yes. So that's a huge tip, is to, I guess tip number 1, the main tip overall is
look
to,
for a reward system.
Whatever you're thinking you're gonna probably take consistently, get into a reward system for that.
Right.
And we'll go a little bit more over that when we start talking about flights and all of that.
Yes. So then Delores moved back to Connecticut, and that's when things started to get a little interesting. So
and just a little background. So at the time I was finishing my senior year at Seton Hall, where we met, and he went off to med school in Baltimore, Maryland, Johns Hopkins. And so once I graduated from Seton Hall, I moved back home to Connecticut to do my master's, and he was still in med school. Maryland. So at the time I was thinking about going to do my master's in Maryland, but I was like, I need to save money and just live at home, especially because I knew I wanted to invest in getting a doctorate. So we became from Maryland, Jersey to Maryland.
Which is only about like 3 hours, which isn't bad.
Right, to Connecticut and Maryland.
Yeah.
So just a little bit further.
Yeah. So you know, me being the cheapskate and still thinking like kind of small, like, okay, how can we save money? My brilliant idea was like, oh, let's just continue with the bus model. So kind of getting a little further like north into like, and there are other places too. Megabus is another company as well. They're like the double-decker ones that you see around like New York City.
And they come out of Connecticut.
Yeah, they do come out
Whereas
of
Bolt Bus doesn't come out of Connecticut.
Bolt Bus doesn't go to Connecticut. Peter Pan does. And Greyhound, I believe. Yeah, Greyhound definitely does as well. But Megabus, that goes from Connecticut into like New York City. And they're fairly cheap too. So I thought, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll continue the bus model. You'll take the bus from Connecticut to New York City and then go from New York City to Baltimore. Done. Easy. Now here's where we messed up. Number one, we messed up by like, I think, using different companies. Because like, I think if you have like a connection, they probably will work with you like a little more.
And I'm going like, you know, after the work day, or I was working part-time, but I was in school full-time. But I'm going in the evening on a Friday night when you're gonna be stuck in traffic. And I'm trying to take the Megabus to New York City in traffic, and I'm trying to connect to the Bolt Bus to get to Maryland. So it would be so hard to make it, or I'm like running. And then because the Bolt Bus and Megabus because they don't park in like the main.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing I should mention.
I'm like getting off in the random weird street in New York, unlit, trying to find the next random weird street in New York City to get the Bolt Bus.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's.
I need a whole like. Where's my gift for making it through long distance with you? This house. I can't.
I think that's something I should mention too. So like Bolt Bus and Megabus, they're kind of what you call like, I think they call it like sidewalk kind of stops. So basically like they don't really leave out of like a traditional like bus terminal. Which for them, it was good because they didn't really have to like worry about like taking up space like in a terminal and renting it and all that stuff. But like, if you're trying to like move from one bus to another, like they may be on like totally different sides of or maybe several blocks away, so it can be kind of a struggle. So I remember her first time taking it, like she literally had only minutes to like race and catch the other bus, which she did, but let's just say it turned out to be a pretty miserable trip.
I would go to see him with a whole attitude. And the thing is, when you're long distance, especially if you're watching this and you're in a long distance relationship, depending on where you are, you don't see each other often. So the last thing you want to do after not seeing each other often is to come with a whole attitude. But that would be me. I'd have a whole attitude.
This is true. So we decided, so actually it was from that trip that we branched out to our next endeavor. So
because I missed the bus.
Right, because we missed the bus because you and I both are not really great with showing up on time for things. So we missed the bus and that just threw off the whole thing. Yeah. So I'm like, oh God. And she was freaking out what we're going to do. And
I had to get to, you know, school, work.
So I looked, so the bus station, the bus stop for Bolt Bus is next to the train station, the main train station in Baltimore. So I was like, well, I know Amtrak can take you at least pretty close to Connecticut, which it did.
And Amtrak's always been was always an option for us then, but in our minds we thought it was going to be really expensive. But at this time we had like no other option. So Charles was like, all right, I'll pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, I just need to get you home and put you on a train. So we I put her on the train, and then like I think what we found was that like Amtrak wasn't bad. Like it was super comfortable because you have a little more leg space. The Wi-Fi is a little better, I think, than like on the bus. That's the other thing too. The buses, they say they offer Wi-Fi, but it's kind of spotty. But like an Amtrak, it wasn't like horrible. And they also sell food too, which is also nice.
And it got me through into Connecticut, so I didn't have to transfer. I think for the most part. So that was really good with not having to do the hustle and bustle of New York City.
Yes.
But another thing, because Amtrak wasn't as expensive as we thought, like it wasn't like in the hundreds of dollars, but I think at the time it was about 60. So that was still a lot for us, you know, being full-time graduate students. So that's when we found out about the student advantage card. So tip 2, you know, outside of tip 1, that was the rewards. Tip 2 would be the student advantage card. So if you or your boo is a student, a grad student, or recently a student and you got an EDU email.
Yeah, as long as you have an EDU email.
Yeah, definitely look into the student advantage card.
And even just look, look on your school's websites and stuff in terms of discounts. Like I remember one time my car had to go in the shop for repair. And I had to rent a car for like a couple of days. And as I was returning the car, I had my Hopkins ID on, and the lady, as I was returning, she was like, "Oh, you know, you could have got a discount, right?" And I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, Hopkins people always get discounts as long as you have your ID."
That's good. So, however, depending on whatever affiliation you have, like definitely see what discounts you have. And the student advantage, we would pay $30 a month for it, but we always got our money's worth because we were getting so many discounts from it. So there was Amtrak discounts, Peter Pan discounts. So that really helped us out with our tickets. And we would just like every year split it, like, all right, it's time to renew our card. Like, give me 15, I bring in 15, we pay for our students.
Yeah.
Our humble beginnings.
Yep. Did we tell the snowstorm story before or not? Have you told that last week?
No, so before we move on to buses.
No, not buses. We did buses, and before we move on to the plane.
From bus, yeah.
No, this is still a train because I
Oh, that was on the train.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So basically, so the train usually runs fairly. I mean, it's still a ride. Like it's still several hours, but for the most part, you don't really have to deal with like traffic issues, right?
Right. So you get there when you're supposed to get there.
Right.
That's what I liked about it.
Right. Now, the only thing you can't really predict is if there's like a big weather thing, right? I mean, if there's like snow on the ground, then everything for the most part is gonna have some type of delay. And one time you were coming up for a weekend. It was supposed to be really nice. That was the casino weekend. Where, so my school does like a it's somewhat of like a fundraiser, but it's like a big like casino night. Everyone like dresses up like
a special night.
Yeah, right. Everyone dresses up like real fancy and stuff, and we just like we do money in terms of casino night, but it all goes to charity. So she's coming up for that weekend, and she took the train. Now, didn't plan on it, but there was this huge like snowstorm. Like it shut down like everything, and my school got shut. It shut down everything in Maryland, right? And what turned out, the trip was supposed to be, I want to say maybe 5-6 hours. I feel like that thing turned to like an 9 hours.
Yeah,
train
I was
ride.
on the train for a long time because we kept having to stop because it was safe to continue. So by the time I got to him, I think I was supposed to get to him maybe like 6 or 7. I think I didn't get to you till like 11 or midnight.
And then I couldn't, because the
you couldn't come get me.
Yeah, because I didn't want to drive because I didn't know how deep the snow was and stuff. So
and the snow was bad. Like the snow was like this high.
Right.
And this was like before Uber.
Yeah, and I didn't have like a truck or anything.
So taxis were like skyrocketing their price, and when I got off the train, I think a taxi, well, usually I'm just making up numbers, but what usually would be $5 to take the taxi from the train station to his place was like $50. So Charles was like, please babe, just get on the train. I'll pay him when I get there. I'm like, I ain't paying $50 to get on a train. It's snowing. He's just supposed to want to take me. I was just team aggravated.
Yes.
But that day I was just like, I'm never coming here again. Like but this train situation, this bus situation. So this was like the very, very challenging part of our relationship of long distance was not only were we far from each other and we couldn't see each other long, but for us, getting to each other was very challenging. And especially before we get to the plane thing, the bus and the train would take a lot of my time. Because after that first year of me being in my master's, I took a year off to work, but then after that, I was in a doctoral program while working full time with 2 part-time jobs. So for me to be sitting on a train for 6 hours, I'm like, I got other places to go, other things to do.
Right, but that challenges you to use your time effectively and be productive.
Right. I would try to study, but sometimes you're on a bus, you just get,
it's hard.
I don't know if you get sleepy when you're like on the bus or the train. It would be hard for me to be productive. But that's when we moved into our plane situation, right?
So I guess that was going towards, I want to say maybe the latter part of my 3rd year.
Yeah, we didn't discover that until, I would say the bus was like your first year of medical school.
Right.
Then we graduated to the train, maybe the 2 years, and it wasn't until like your 4th year. And I think we discovered the train because, was it your match day?
I think
the plane?
I think it was my match day.
So that was like so late into, so match day is the day when he finds out where he's gonna place for residency, and that's like March of his last year. So we had 2 months left when we discovered the plane. But I really wanted to attend his match day, but I was also dancing for my church's Easter play. So I needed a way to get to his match day and be able to get back within just a couple hours. So that's when we started looking at the plane, and we discovered that wasn't as expensive as we thought. So if you are long distance, and depending on how far you are, definitely look at all your options, the bus, the train, and the plane, and don't automatically rule out something that may seem expensive because it may not, depending on what airline you take.
And also considering, especially if you know you're gonna be flying a lot, That's something that
rewards,
we didn't do.
that's
Yeah, like
tip number
right.
one.
Yeah, so like the rewards or like the credit cards, so you can get like miles and things like that. That's another tip we should talk about is also like how to fund this and stuff. And we kind of talked a little about the student advantage is like the importance, especially if someone's gonna be because like Delores usually traveled towards me because I had an apartment.
Yeah, I was living at home, so
Yeah.
it was just easier for me to stay over instead of us getting hotels all the time.
Right. So try to split up the costs, you know, with each other, just so it's not always on like one person.
Right. Right. Especially if we're both students going through that struggle.
Yeah.
But with the plane, so we ended up finding out, depending on where you're taking your plane to your boo, we ended up finding out the Southwest, a flight from Connecticut to Maryland was very, very cheap. Not very cheap, but it was doable.
It was affordable.
Yeah, it was doable. I think it was about $100 round trip.
Yeah.
And at that time, you know, I was working, and you know, he was still a student, but I was working, so it was a little bit more affordable. But then it became this is worth my time. This $100 is worth me getting on the flight for an hour instead of just sitting on a bus for 6 hours. So the ability to have less time became worth the money, and it wasn't crazy expensive. And then we, you know, opted into a rewards program with that too, and still had our student advantage card. So is that it?
Yeah, I guess that's all we took. We didn't take a boat to each other.
Nope. We did do a boat ride before with each other. Well, we didn't have to do a boat. Other than that, we did the train, the bus, the flight, the walk-in, because I had to do a lot of walking in New York City. And even in Baltimore.
Oh, and one time you drove.
Here. Oh, I would drive. So when I did drive to Maryland one time, and then when he started residency in New York City, and I was still living in Connecticut, I would take the train, but sometimes I would train almost to the part of Connecticut, because I live in northern Connecticut, but I would train down to like South Connecticut, Southern Connecticut.
You drive to Connecticut.
Sorry, I would drive down to Southern Connecticut and then hop on a train so I could get like a cheap train. I don't know which one made more sense, but I just didn't want to pay for a really expensive train, and I wanted the ability to just take the bus right over to that train station and then hop in my car and keep it moving, because I just prefer to be in my car when I'm traveling. So that ended up being a great option for us when we were doing New York and Connecticut.
Right,
and this was when he was in residency in New York and I was in Connecticut.
Right.
And then finally, Jesus, even though Jersey, I always said I would never come back, that is when our long distance officially ended. So I took a job in New Jersey while he was doing his last year of residency in New York City. So that's when we were like still team long distance, but not really. For the first time, we could just take a 40-minute train to each other.
Right.
I would get out of work and be able to just take the train to him. So that was really nice.
That was nice, yeah.
And it was different for us because literally we didn't have access to each other in that way since our first year of our relationship. Because our first year of our relationship, we were both in college together. I was a junior, he was a senior. And then after that, for the next 6 years, we were team long distance. And that was a long 6 years. But I will say one of the greatest benefits of being long distance is you really do build a friendship. If you're intentional about it, you really do build a friendship, because literally all you have is communication. There's no seeing each other every day and then just like, I don't know, making out, whatever people do when they're with each other.
We don't even know.
Like, what do people do when they're with each other? You're really forced to talk and communicate, because that's all you have to keep the relationship going. So whenever I would go through those moments where I'm like, I'm done, I can't do this, I want to break up, we really had a friendship, and so it kept us going. So that was a big thing about us. And then when we finally did get together, when we got married and he graduated residency, we bought our beautiful home, we have that foundation of a great friendship. So, you know, if you're long distance, hold on tight.
Yes,
it's not, you know, it's very temporary. I think if you look back at our last video, one of the biggest tips that we gave was knowing when your long distance will end. So coming together and being like, realistically, how long will you live in Georgia while I'm in Canada? Like, at what point will one of us move? And then I think sometimes creating that plan helps you start to have something to look forward to and know that this time of your life is just temporary. So yeah, I think that's it. And now we're together. And now when he goes to work for 8 hours, I'm like, when are you coming home? I miss you. Even though I would go like literally months without seeing him. So I hope this helped. I hope these tips were helpful. Comment below if they were. And if you want to see more videos like this, We do videos on home, marriage, and our lifestyle, so definitely make sure you subscribe. We are so close to being monetized by YouTube. I just need a couple hundred subscribers. I'm already at the watch hour mark because you need 4,000 watch hours to be monetized. So please, 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 if you love this video and you want to see more, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, but also subscribe and join our family. Thanks so much for watching.
Take care.
Peace.
Papa, thank you.